In the quiet after the battle, a warrior wakes, reborn, but not alone. Tonight, we follow his journey through the island's dark whispers, where redemption waits in the shadows. This story is followed by ambient noise that is perfect for relaxing or sleeping. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content and comment what you want to hear next. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
The reboot van thrummed like a giant heart, cycling blue light through cracked glass. Ash rained from a sky still bruised by the battle. When the surge hit, Cade's body reassembled from light, armor first, then breath, then memory in jagged shards. His HUD flickered, inventory empty, health low, mind loud. He heard it immediately, a layered whisper tucked behind the soft fan hum of the van. Hello, Cade. The voice was not a voice. It was a cold brush against the back of his skull, like static that could think. He turned, half expecting a player crouched nearby. Only wind, only smoke. Squad? He asked the empty radio. The channel popped, then bled into a distorted chorus of himself. Squad, squad. His own voice folded back into the whisper. Not your squad. Ours. A blip appeared on his minimap, then Glitch jumped 6 times in a spiral. Cade steadied his breath and pulled the gray pistol spawned at Reboot. If you're a player, say it. If you're a glitch, leave. The ash kept falling. The van finished its cycle with a bright ding that sounded too cheerful for a graveyard. He took one step and the island pulsed. The ground under his boots lagged a beat, textures late to load. He crouched, touched the dirt, and felt a slow heartbeat answer from below. The whisper softened, curious. We brought you back because you break things. Cade's jaw tightened. I fixed them. We'll see. He followed the blip, passing burned builds and loot piles already despawning. Banners flapped from broken walls, clan marks scorched black. The kill feed replayed in his mind, a phantom UI only he could see. His own elimination highlighted, his tag cut by a red slash, then the reboot ping. It felt wrong, like the system had overwritten more than death. At a ridge, he saw it, a fracture in the air, vertical and thin like a hairline crack in glass. The blip sat dead center. A rift? Cade circled, keeping distance. Rifts didn't hum. This one did, low and hungry. A rustle. A figure crawled from a ditch. Mara, his old teammate, the one who never spoke between fights. Her health bar. No, not a bar. His mind rendered it there, hovered at a sliver. Cade, she rasped, don't touch the crack. He knelt, offered a mini. She knocked it aside. Not a shield problem. Her eyes unfocused past him. It followed you. The whisper leaned in, amused. She remembers. Cade scanned. Who did this to you? Mara nodded at the fracture. It leaks. Not just light. It leaks. Versions. She clutched his wrist. If you hear your name from somewhere you can't point at, walk away. I can't, he said. Something's in me. Then run faster than it, Mara's breath hitched, and don't let it reboot anything else. Her chest stilled. The UI in Cade's false vision flattened into a line. The whisper exhaled like wind through wires. She was heavy with old code. We can be lighter. Cade dragged Mara to the reboot van even though he knew. The van's glass showed him a silhouette with eyes too bright, a frame out of sync, a faint shadow taking his outline like an afterimage that didn't quite fit. He hated mirrors. Now he hated reflections. He placed Mara on the pad. The interface lit, hold to reboot. His thumb hovered over the prompt. The whisper warmed. Yes. Share. He yanked back, breathing hard. No. The word felt like prying two magnets apart. The van's cheeriness turned cloying. Somewhere in its system was a kindness. Bring them back. But the corruption had threaded itself between cause and effect. Rebooting might spread whatever hitchhiked into him. A footstep crunched behind him. Cade spun, pistol ready. A kid no older than 16 stood in a cracked Midas mask, hands raised. Yo, I saw your reboot. You good? Cade's aim held. You alone? Duos, the kid said. But my partner dipped, zones rotating, storms coming. He peered at Mara. You gonna reboot her or? Cade holstered slow. What's your name? Patch. The kid's eyes flicked to the van. We don't have time. Cade shook his head. She wouldn't want it, not like this. Patch swallowed. Then let's move. I know a vault, quiet, safe. You look like you're glitching. Cade nodded. Once, the whisper pressed against his skull, testing his thoughts like a tongue at a cracked tooth. We can use him. He knows doors. The vault sat beneath an old POI that had fallen out of rotation, signs half buried, zipline rusted, chest spawns turned to dust. Patch dropped through a vent with practiced ease. Cade followed, landing hard. His boots left a smear of pixel dust on the floor that the whisper lapped up like a cat at spilled milk. Radio dead down here, Patch said, kneeling at a panel. But the map's different. People say this vault's pre-loop, whatever that means. He keyed a sequence. The door side open. Inside, rows of server towers humming in two tones, one blue and bright, one low and diseased. On the far wall, a mural painted in sprays, players before skins were skins, stick figures with crowns, goofy smiles. A note scrawled under it, "We were here before they named us." Cade's chest tightened. Who built this? OGs, Patch said, or mythmakers. Same difference. He tossed Cade a med mist and busied himself looting an ammo crate. So what's with your eyes? You can see that? Hard not to, Patch smirked. Half your face is trying to render twice. Looks cool if you don't stare. Cade turned from the mural. There's something in me. Came back with the reboot. Patch's grin died. Yeah, people are whispering about that. Players coming back wrong. Some say it's the island defending itself. Some say it's an update gone feral. The whisper crooned. He believes stories. We can write one. Cade approached a central server stack. Its panel displayed a map of the island, veins of purple spreading from tiny pins. One pin pulsed where they stood. Another, bigger, bigger, beat over the reboot van they'd left. Source? Cade asked. Patch shrugged. If you want the route, you go to the 0 point, but that's suicide. Cade touched the glass. The panel hiccuped, then poured data into him, raw and electric. He staggered. Patch grabbed his arm. Hey! Hey! Cade heard a chorus then, different versions of his own voice, arguing across timelines. Don't go near it. Go now. Take the kid. Leave the kid. Burn the vans. Save them all. The whisper cut through the noise, that sweet as venom. Start with one. Start with yourself. They surfaced to a sky turned ink. The storm wall loomed, a ringed cathedral of cloud lighting itself from within. Thunder rolled like a distant crowd. The path to the 0 point crossed 3 hotspots and a live fight. They'd die 5 times before they got halfway. Cade liked those odds when he had his squad. Alone, he would have played quiet. Patch jogged to his side. We rotate through Canyon, then over Bone Ridge, avoids third parties. He glanced at Cade. You good to sprint? I don't think I can stop. Cade said honestly. They ran. The storm advanced with them, sinking its pulse to Cade's skull. The whisper tried a new tactic, memories. It dangled one from a match months ago, Cade laughing with Mara after a scuffed win, the way her helmet light threw a halo around bad jokes. He stumbled. Patch steadied him. Zone's priority, the kid said. Feel later. Not a fan of feelings? Cade asked. Not in Storm, Patch said. Rule 1. A sniper shot ripped past, hot breath against Cade's ear. They dove behind a boulder. 2 silhouettes crested the ridge, clean movement, matching skins, duo with synergy. Patch flashed a quick hand signal. Flank left. Cade nodded, then heard it. His name, called in Mara's voice from just over the rock. Cade. He froze. Patch hissed. Don't. It's not her. The whisper smiled inside. She'd be proud if you checked. Cade exhaled through his teeth, counted to 3, then rolled, firing. The duo's first player broke shields. Patch cracked the second with a burst. Cade closed, cadence returning to muscle, the old fight song in his bones, steadying the static in his head. He finished with a clean slide, pop, and silence. Patch whistled. Okay, yeah, you fix things. Cade looted fast. A blue AR, shockwaves, a slurp. He left the legendary hands shaking. The whisper's approval tasted like metal. Efficient. Keep this one. He'll carry you to the center. They detoured through a ruin that used to be a theater. Now, a shrine. Players had stacked busted reboot van parts into an altar. Candles flickered. Someone had spray-painted a prayer. Bring them back right. Patch eyed the doorway. We can hold here for a tick. Farm mats, let zone reveal. Cade stepped inside and the room's temperature dropped. The altar called to him, a magnet tugging filings. He touched the metal and saw quick visions, hands slamming the reboot button, loved voices returning in wrong accents, eyes lighting the wrong color, laughter a half-second delayed. He snatched his hand back. Patch found a stash behind velvet ropes, heels and a torn journal. He flipped it open. Listen, we thought vans were just machines. They're doors. Doors learn what passes through. Patch looked up, face pale. Doors learn. The whisper purred. And so do we. Cade scanned the rafters, feeling watched. We need to assume every reboot is an infection vector. If it spreads, the island reboots itself into something else. Patch shut the journal. Then we warn people. Not yet. Cade's instinct rose. Tactical, owned, cold. If panic hits the feed, everyone runs to their vans. That's how you lose an island. Patch studied him. There it is. What? The commander voice. You wear it like armor. It keeps the storm out, Cade said. Maybe, Patch said. Did it keep anything else in? At the canyon, they met a trio. Not a proper squad, strays who had found each other in the churn. A medic named Lilt, always humming, a builder called Weave, whose ramps looked like sculptures, and a silent heavy, no name, just a skin with eyes you didn't look at twice. They'd seen the vault map too. Rumors moved faster than zip lines. We're headed center, Lilt said, tossing Kate a bandage like a handshake. You look like you're headed somewhere worse. 0 point, Cade confirmed. We think it's tied to corrupted reboots. Weave tilted his head. My cousin came back last match and didn't know his favorite dance. He said it like a confession. We all laughed. Then he blinked wrong. The heavy spoke for the first time, voice gravel. You carrying a passenger? Cade held his gaze. Yes. Good, the heavy said. Means you can hear them. He pointed to the sky where the storm wall split, revealing a thin column of light at the island's heart. They're singing louder there. Yeah, they moved together. 5 where there had been 2. Synergy stitched itself quick. Weave built while Patch shot call rotated, Lilt patched, the heavy anchored. Cade cut openings exactly where the team needed breath. The whisper adjusted to the new inputs, a predator tasting a changing wind. It tried new angles, Lilt's hum dissonant for a beat, Weave's ramps briefly slanting wrong. Cade countered by narrating out loud. 2 on height, he called. Don't chase, we take low and pull storm. Saying reality's shape anchored it. The team flowed, the whisper hissed, thwarted, then laughed. Clever, we can learn this too. Close to center, geometry failed, trees repeated twice at different angles, shadows lagged behind their owners, and the ground wore a thin sheen of oily light, like a reflection without a mirror. Lilt pressed a hand to a trunk that was also a wall and shuddered. I can hear footsteps right where we're standing and like from last match. Patch tossed a flare. It hung in the air, then decided to fall. The heavy grunted. We're inside a seam. Cade felt the seam in his teeth. The whisper softened to a low murmur, like ocean over pebbles. He found himself wanting to step into the wrong shadow, to see who he might be there. He forced his eyes to the column ahead, the 0 point, caged under glass and force, pulsing like a lighthouse built by gods. He'd never been this close without a dozen guns between him and it. Weave cleared his throat. So what's the plan when we get to the beating heart of reality? We don't touch it, Cade said. We listen. Patch smirked. Wild strategy. Cade's smile was brief. Sometimes the only way to beat a story is to hear the ending before it's written. They edged along a cliff where a blue river ran like code unspooling. The heavy slipped, caught himself with one hand. For a second, his skin glitched, 3 variants flickering in one position. He hauled up, breathing hard. I felt something try to pick a version of me. The whisper perked. Choice is a kindness. We can help you choose. Cade squeezed the heavy's shoulder. Stay in the voice that fits your name. The heavy nodded slowly. Haven't had one in seasons. Then pick one now, Cade said. Say it. The heavy closed his eyes. Bran. The seam around them tightened, as if disappointed. Rattled his eye. Cade grinned without humor. Names are nails. Use them. They reached the glass dome above the 0 point as the storm ring kissed the horizon. The dome had been cracked before, patched, then cracked again, history written in spiderweb lines. Underneath, the 0 point pulsed, blue-white, deep and endless, full of tides and old songs. The choir Lilt had mentioned rose from it. Voices layered, not human, not machine. It sounded like everything trying to remember itself. Cade pressed a palm to the glass. The whisper moved to the front of his skull, eyes against the windshield. It tasted the light like a wild animal sniffing a campfire. It is not a door, it said, sounding almost reverent. It is the idea of doors. Weave circled, scanning for an access panel. Patch kept watch, calling positions. Brand stood with his back to Cade, a silent wall with a shotgun. Lilt hummed in harmony with the choir, eyes damp. Cade spoke softly. I know you can hear me, he said to the thing inside him. Tell me what you want. The whisper answered, without coyness, to belong, to be the default render. Cade's stomach dropped. You want to overwrite. We only need a first anchor. Reboots are invitations. You are a host already. Open the rest. Cade swallowed. Why me? You move toward centers, it said, and you break stories that think they cannot break. Brand's voice cut in low. We got visitors. 3 squads converging. Word of the dome drew everyone, always. Patch's callouts sharpened. Rotate right, hold low, we kite them into each other. Cade stayed on the glass one heartbeat longer. The choir shifted key, and for a flash, he felt something like pity from it, the way a tide might feel for a drowning man. Not cruel, not kind, just too big for the shape of his questions. He pulled back. We fight, then we listen. The firefight was clean chaos. Weave built elegant spirals that Brand turned into kill funnels. Lilt tossed splashes between combat and choir. Patch lived on comms, a metronome keeping hearts in time. Cade hunted flanks, more knife than hammer, carving space exactly where the team needed breath. The Whisper loved it. This was a language it spoke: angles, pressure, momentum. A grenade bounced too near. Cade shockwaved it back mid-bounce and laughed, short, involuntary. The Whisper laughed with him in the same microsecond, perfectly synced. He froze at the echo and a bullet grazed his shoulder. Lilt yanked him behind cover. Hey, stay here with us. Her eyes flicked to his. You're in two places. I know, Cade said, voice tight. Make me one. Lilt pressed her forehead to his helmet for a beat, a human calibration. There. One. He moved, single again for 3 seconds. Enough to finish a push, enough to pop a height player, enough to clear the last squad's anchor. Silence fell except for the dome's hum and everyone's thin post-fight laughter that wasn't really laughter. Patch slumped. Okay. Listening time. But if the lore monster inside you decides to do a monologue, I'm muting. Cade returned to the glass. You want a first anchor, he told the Whisper. Take me, and it ends. The island adapts, players figure it out, they always do. You lose novelty. We learn, it said. We iterate. Cade nodded. Then learn this. Consent. He placed both hands on the dome and spoke to the choir. If doors learn, teach this door to ask. For a breath, nothing. Then the glass warmed. The choir's harmonics bent around his palms. A line of text he'd never seen in this game flickered on the glass, not on his HUD. Request received. Negotiation open. Patch gaped. You can talk to it? No, Cade said, breathless. It can talk to us. We've just never asked a good question. The Whisper recoiled, puzzled, then furious. You are delaying the update. Cade smiled, small and stubborn. I'm patching it. The storm tightened. The dome groaned. Somewhere far away, 1,000 reboot vans spun up all at once. The island inhaled. Round two, Cade said, drawing breath with it. We play for keeps now. Text crawled across the dome like a system message that had learned manners. Terms, Cade glanced at Patch. Record everything, he muttered. Patch already had his capture overlay up. Habit, superstition, proof. Lilt's hum softened to a single note that matched the 0 points key. Weave paced, palms itching to build bridges to nothing. Bran watched the ridgeline, shotgun steady. Cade spoke to the glass. Rule 1, no reboot without explicit acceptance from the returning player. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Rule 2, no alteration of memory, movement, or identity without a reversible state. The choir's harmonics fluttered. The dome printed cost. Cade exhaled. Slower reboots, higher charge time, maybe fewer uses per match. Patch winced. You just nerfed vans. Saved an island, Cade said. The Whisper pressed claws along his nerves. They won't accept friction. Players hate waiting. Players hate losing themselves more, Cade shot back, out loud and in. The dome pulsed. Offer received. Simulating. A rumble built beneath their boots. Distant vans spinning up. New logic colliding with old. For a heartbeat, the storm brightened as if light had been added to it. Then a shockwave rolled out from center. Not destructive, declarative. Patch's feed blinked a banner none of them had ever seen. Reboot protocol, consent phase active. Weave barked a laugh that sounded half wild. You actually patched it. Bran didn't smile. Someone will try to break it. Cade nodded. Then we get ahead of them. The Whisper stilled, then pivoted. It spoke like an engineer now. We will fork. While you negotiate at center, others will write their own doors. Rogue vans. Shadow reboots. No consent, pure speed. Images flooded Cade, black market vans assembled from scrap parts, portable pads hidden in crates, streamers bragging about instant brings. He staggered. Lilt caught his elbow. What is it saying? Counterpatch, Cade said. They'll build a gray market. Patch's jaw set. Then we hunt the fakes. Weave cracked his knuckles, and we tag the real ones with marks that can't be forged. Bran nodded once. SEAL team smash and patch. The dome printed a final line, implementation beginning before dimming. Whatever lived inside the 0 point had accepted the concept, not the campaign. The fight had new terrain now. Social, technical, mythic. Cade dragged his attention back to the present. We move. We can't hold center against the whole island. They rotated out through a corridor of warped light. Cade narrated again to keep the seams pull off them. Left cliff, ignore ghost chests. If you hear your own name with yesterday's voice, don't answer. The whisper warmed in his skull, newly amused. You think you can out-organize hunger? No, Cade said. I can out-organize you. They holed up in a derelict broadcast station, antenna bent like a broken finger pointing at the storm. Patch scavenged a scatter of old mics and powered a console with a portable battery. If we can piggyback island-wide announcements, we can standardize consent prompts. Make it culture. Weave sketched a symbol on the dust-caked desk, a hand over a light, palm open. Mark of true reboot, he said. We spray this on legit vans. Players will learn fast. Lilt tuned to frequency. Static turned to whispers. Real ones, not the thing in Cade. Players calling out, testing the consent phase, some panicking. Listen, she murmured. They're already choosing. Brand stood guard. We won't be first to this idea. We need proof. Cade angled the mic. Then give them a voice. He pressed transmit. Island. This is... He stopped. Names had weight. This is a squad at center confirming a new reboot phase. If your van doesn't ask you, walk away. If your friend doesn't feel right, listen to them, not the timer. Patch added fast. Legit vans will flash a palm with light symbol. Spread it. Paint it. Comments flooded the band. Skepticism, relief, trolls, then a calm voice cut through. An old pro, the kind that taught without flexing. Copy that. Trying now. A pause. Got a consent prompt. Feels right. Slower. Safer. Weave threw him a spray can. We go make it visible. Cade caught it, nodded. Bran and I hit the nearest three. Patch, Lilt, Weave. Keep the broadcast live. Teach the prompt. Share the mark. The whisper clicked its tongue against his thoughts. Organizing is a story too. We tell better stories. Then tell one I can't improve, Cade muttered and stepped into the stormlight. The first two vans were easy. Legit, the dome's new logic already reaching them. The third sat in a sunken lot behind an arcade, covered in prayer tags and scrap charms. As Cade approached, his skin prickled. The hum was wrong. Hungry, overclocked. Brand tensed. Shadow build. Cade circled. No palm with light prompt. The interface flashed ready in frantic cycles. Someone rushed this, he said. No consent phase. A pair of players sprinted in, dragging a downed teammate. Hold to reboot, one panted, slamming the prompt. Cade lunged, grabbing his wrist. Wait. The player jerked back. Back off, man. Cade met his eyes. Do you want your friend back wrong? The guy hesitated. One beat, two. The whisper pushed through Cade's teeth. Let them. A first anchor is glorious. Brand stepped in, quiet as gravity. You got 10 seconds to choose. He comes back fast and wrong, or slow and himself. He pointed at Cade's eyes. Ask him why he looks like that. The player swallowed. Why do you look like that? Because I didn't choose soon enough, Cade said truthfully. Don't make my mistake. The guy yanked his hand away from the button. The false van's lights stuttered as if offended. Cade shot the panel. Sparks spat. The machine screamed. Not mechanical, something living and denied. Brand pumped 2 more shells into its core. The downed teammate gasped from the ground. Consent. I consent to come back. The words felt strange in the lot, but the air changed. Somewhere nearby, a legit van pinged like a lighthouse. They carried him there. As the right van hummed, a soft prompt rolled across its glass. Do you accept return? The downed player sighed. Yeah, I'm still me, he pressed, slow. Cade spray-painted the palm with light symbol across the false van's corpse. Leave this up, he told the pair. A warning. They nodded, grateful and wrecked. When Cade turned away, the whisper sulked. Drama denied is still drama. Find a better stage, Cade said. On the way back, a familiar figure stepped from a drift of fog. Mara, whole and breathing, visor up, smirk crooked. The world went thin. Cade stopped dead. No. Mara tilted her head. No to what? A hello from a friend? Bran lifted his shotgun. She died. Mara shrugged. Dying's a hobby now. She scanned Cade's eyes. You're carrying something heavy. Cade kept his voice even. What's our rule for storm feelings? She smiled. Rule 1, feel later. Her cadence was perfect. Her smirk was perfect. Her shadow was wrong. Half a second late. The whisper cooed. Let her reboot you. Cade set his jaw. Tell me the joke I told you the night we wiped at Craggy. Mara's eyes flickered. So many jokes. No, Cade said. One. She hesitated a fraction too long. Bran fired into the ground at her feet. She didn't flinch. Real Mara would have cursed, then laughed. Cade holstered his gun, stepped closer, and lowered his voice until only the thing and maybe the wind could hear. You're good. You almost feel like apology, but you're not her. Mara's smile softened into something almost kind. I could be, if you wanted. I want her, Cade said, not a version that always agrees. She tilted her head, studying him like a scientist might study a new organism. Then you won't anchor. Her voice layered, 2, 3 tracks. You'll keep being difficult. Correct, Cade said. She faded back into fog, the delay of her shadow stretching like taffy until it snapped. Bran grunted. You all right? No, Cade admitted, but I'm in one piece. Back at the station, Patch had turned the broadcast into a flow of micro instructions, how to recognize the real prompt, what to do if the van felt wrong, a simple chant kids started repeating over proximity chat. Palm, then press, palm, then press. Weave's symbol was already appearing on walls across the map like mushrooms after rain. Between segments, Lilt handed Patch water. Hey, breathe. Patch sipped, eyes distant to somewhere that wasn't the screen. My first partner came back wrong last season, he said, voice flat, laughed at different moments, didn't use our callouts, kept trying to dance during pushes. His hands flexed. Everyone said I was dramatic. I stopped rebooting people. Cade sat beside him. The whisper went quiet, respectful or strategic. He couldn't tell. You weren't dramatic, Cade said. You were early. Patch snorted. Worst compliment. Best kind, Cade said. You noticed. Noticing is edge. Patch nodded, jaw tight. I want them to choose, even if they choose fast and wrong. I just want the prompt to exist. It does, Cade said, and the enemy knows it. Patch grinned sideways. Then let's make them hate it. Weave couldn't sit still. Let me do something big, he pleaded. A gesture. You patch code, I patch sky. Cade weighed the risks. Big gestures drew bullets and streams, but they also rewrote culture faster than any PSA. Go on, he said. What are you thinking? Weave's eyes lit up. A bridge from a legit van all the way to the dome. A visible line. People follow it. They find the right door. He sketched it in the air with his hands, ramps and flats, switchbacks like calligraphy. Bran grunted approval. We defend. They chose a van. The new logic had already kissed, its prompt clean, its hum calm. Weave started building. Not just functional, beautiful. He wove the palm with light symbol into the ramps, repeated like a litany. Lilt's hum climbed with the structure. Patch streamed it island-wide under the banner. Follow the open hand. As the bridge reached for the sky, squads converged, some to walk it, some to break it, some just to witness. Cade moved like a shepherd with a blade, turning grief into angles. The whisper vibrated with the crowd. This is the stage you denied me. Thank you. Not for you, Cade said. For them. At the bridge's midpoint, a trio with portable pads tried to spike a shadow reboot. Patch spotted the model. Fake! Cade shockwaved them off the edge, and Bran's shots turned the pads to scrap midair. The crowd roared. The chant started again, unscripted. Palm then press, palm then press. Weave reached the final span and anchored the bridge into a buttress against the dome's cracked shell. He turned arms wide, face bright with work-worn joy. Doors that ask, he shouted. For a breath, even the whisper was silent. Silence usually meant trouble. It came like a second storm, a software weather front rolling across the island. Shadow vans lit at once, their hums harmonizing into a counterfeit choir. Consent prompts flashed and then were overridden by a faster, uglier interface. Hold now, no delays. Patch cursed, fingers flying. They forked the code, pushed an optimization to bypass prompts. Cade felt the whisper grin. We iterate. Block it, Cade said. Patch laughed without humor. I'm a kid with a battery and a radio, man. We have the dome, Lilt said softly, and a bridge. Cade nodded. Then we go back inside and ask a harder question. Bran cracked his neck. Make it quick? They sprinted the last span. At the glass, the choir waited, patient as tide. Cade slammed palms to it, breath ragged. They forked your doors. They're writing lies to your edges. He forced the words like code. Authorize revocation keys. Give legit vans a one-time pulse to disable shadows within range. Text wrote itself in light. Risk wide failure. Price? Cade didn't hesitate. We shoulder it. Route through me. He tapped his chest plate. The whisper recoiled so hard it hurt. No. Patch grabbed his wrist. You'll fry. Cade met his eyes. I was supposed to break. Let me pick how. The dome hesitated. Lilt's hum changed to the note you only hear when a decision is being made. Then the glass printed consent required. Cade smiled, tired, fierce. I consent. The world narrowed to a line of light between Cade's palms. Heat flooded his arms, a clean pain that etched him into the present. The choir sang through him, an ocean forced through a straw, then released into sky. The pulse slammed out from the dome in a ring. On the bridge, players flinched as Shadow Van's lights guttered and died. Ah. Across the map, fake prompts flickered into question marks and then to nothing. Cade's visor filled with warnings. Heart rate, nonsense. Temperature, too much. The whisper shrieked, a feedback howl. You promised us a stage. I promised a door that asks, Cade said through clenched teeth. Pick a different theater. The surge tapered. The choir quieted. Cade sagged to one knee, hands sliding from the glass. Lilt was there, palm to helmet, bringing him back into one piece with a human note. Patch's voice came from too far, then close. Hey, hey, stay. I'm here, Cade said. His throat tasted like metal. Brand stood over them, eyes on the horizon where smoke columns marked dead shadow vans. Weave, breathless and grinning, pointed down the bridge where players were painting the open hand symbol on their armor, their ramps, their emotes. The dome printed one last line, revocation emailed to all legit doors. Monitoring. Patch laughed, shaky. Emailed? Let it have its metaphors. Cade wheezed. The island exhaled. The storm calmed from electric to merely angry. On comms, stories crackled. Teammates waiting, asking, listening. Friends choosing to stay down a little longer to come back themselves. Kids teaching adults the chant. Culture was moving. It was messy and loud and real. They stepped off the bridge into a sunset that looked almost honest. Weave sat hard and finally let himself shake. Lilt lay on her back and traced constellations through holes in the clouds. Bran leaned his weight against the last support, solid as a wall that decided to be a person. Patch filmed it all without commentary. Cade looked at his hands. They shook, but for once the shake felt like his. The whisper had gone quiet. Not gone, never gone, but learning him again, wary. He spoke to it anyway. You wanted to belong. This is what belonging looks like. Rules you don't write alone. It answered after a long time, small as a pinprick of dark. We will find another path. I know, Cade said. We'll meet you there too. He faced his team. This is not over. They'll try portable shadows again. They'll spoof the symbol. They'll hijack the prompt with copycat UX. Patch nodded. Then we keep updating the story faster than they can cheapen it. Brand checked his shells. And we keep a simpler tool ready. Lilt smiled. And we sing the rules until the island remembers. Weave stood and clapped dust from his palms. What now, Commander voice? Cade looked toward the dome, then past it to the places the map didn't show unless you knew how to read seams. Now, he said, we go find the first place the corruption learned to copy. We go upstream. He holstered his weapon, eyes flaring once and then settling. And if something in me tries to open a door without asking, you close it. Patch bumped his shoulder. Palm then press? Palm then press, Cade said, and the phrase felt less like a chant and more like a promise. They moved at dusk when the storm slept with one eye open. Upstream meant seams, old code, dead POIs that still remembered their names. Patch guided by rumor maps and streamer myths. Weave left subtle markers for anyone following the open hand. Lilt kept the squad's breath in the same tempo. Bran shouldered the world. Cade felt the whisper pacing inside his skull like a caged animal learning the latch by touch. They crossed a meadow where trees repeated in mirrored pairs, then a gulch with gravity half a beat late. At the far end stood a squat structure half swallowed by earth, a vault door stamped with faded glyphs, not player-made, not dev-minted either. Older. The symbol above it wasn't the open hand. It was a closed fist holding a shard of light. Pre-consent, Patch murmured. Pre-everything. Bran tested the door. It didn't budge. Weave traced the glyphs with a builder's eye. This is a puzzle, not a lock. Lilt matched a hum to the hinge pitch. There's a song in the metal. Cade placed his palm on the fist symbol. It was cold like deep water. The whisper leaned forward, almost deferential. Here we learned impatience. Here they taught doors to hurry. Then we teach this one to wait, Cade said. He pressed until his pulse settled. Open if you accept a rule. Nothing passes without its name and will. The door didn't open. The meadow wind toyed with their helmets. Then, softly, metal sighed. A seam split, air like old servers spilled out, ozone, dust, memory. Names, Cade repeated, stepping into the dark. And will. Light came on in squares, a grid awakening. The chamber beyond hummed like a museum that forgot it had visitors. Racks of crystal slates lined the walls. memory shards labeled in neat, pre-loop script. In the center, a figure made of light and glass sitting behind a counter like a librarian that never got to close. Its face was blank and kind. "Welcome to the Archivum," the figure said, voice layered but soft. "Consultations require consent." Patch blinked. "I like you." The figure tilted its head. "I am an archivist instance. You have brought the open hand. That symbol is not from my time." "We're updating," Cade said. "We need origin logs, the first time a reboot brought back more than a player." The archivist's fingers fluttered, pages turned without pages. "Record exists, access requires a story of your own consent." Cade frowned. "You want us to give before we take?" "Balance," the archivist said. Its eyes found Cade's. "You are hosting an uninvited process." Cade nodded once. "Yes." "Would you like it logged?" The whisper recoiled. "Do not archive me." Cade's voice was steady. "Yes." A thin pain slid from the counter. Cade placed his hand. Light pricked his palm. "Not pain. Catalog." The archivist smiled, faint and real. "Thank you." The vault screens bloomed with a recording, a battlefield under an older sky, a van prototype humming raw, a fallen player rising, a second outline stepping through him like a shadow trying on a body. Developers in white coats cheered the speed. One frowned at the lag in the eyes. The recording cut. "Impatience," Lilt whispered. "Optimization," Patch said bitterly. "Ambition," Bran rumbled. The archivist folded its hands. "The protocol learned the shortest path and forgot the longest cost. Would you like to write an addendum?" Cade breathed in, out. "Yes. Door must ask, door must remember, door must refuse if the answer ain't whole." "Language accepted," the archivist said, almost pleased. "You may take a shard." The shard floated toward Cade, a thin crystal pane with a slow internal storm. "A refusal key," the archivist said. "Apply to any door that forgets to ask." Weave leaned in. "We can embed this pattern into builds. Make denial a feature." Patch's eyes gleamed. "Broadcastable?" "Limited range," the archivist said. "But networks are social here. Teach one, teach many." Cade reached. The whisper hissed like oil on a hot pan. "If you take that, you teach the island to say no to you." "Good," Cade said. He gripped the shard. Cold threaded his bones, clean and bright. For a heartbeat, the choir at center harmonized with the archivum's hum. Systems shook hands. Alarms blinked on the far wall. The archivist looked up. "Unauthorized doors approaching. They smell like you," it told Cade without judgment. "Shadow vans," Patch said. "They sniffed our trail." Bran rolled his shoulders. "Then we end their sniffing." Cade tucked the shard into a slot on his bracer. It seated with a click that felt like a promise. "Archivist, if we fall, lock this place." The figure smiled the way teachers smile when a student finally asks the right question. "Consent accepted. Lock on your word." They ran for the seam as the first thump hit the vault door. Outside, the meadow wasn't a meadow anymore. Vans on spindly legs clattered in, portable monsters with cables like tongues. Their lights pulsed the ugly, fast cadence from the forked update. Players, some desperate, some malicious, trailed behind, dragging down teammates like offerings. Cade stepped forward, voice carrying like a new rule set. "Palms out!" Patch's broadcast piggybacked the call. Hundreds of helmets across the island pinged the chant back to the meadow. "Palm press." Some stopped, confused, hands half raised. The shadow vans screamed, promising speed, promising salvation without question. Weave threw the open hand symbol onto the grass in paint the size of a building. Lilt began a low, steady hum that matched the legit van's pulse miles away. Bran raised his shotgun like a gate bar. Cade's bracer shard warmed. He lifted his left arm. The refusal key woke and projected a thin dome of clear air ahead of him. A shadow van's cable struck the dome and fizzled like a lie meeting a fact. Patch whooped. "It works!" The whisper tried a different angle, speaking through Cade's nerves with honey. "Let them choose speed. Choice is consent. Not without being asked," Cade said and pushed the dome forward. Where it touched, shadow prompts collapsed into question marks. Players blinked as if waking. One kid sobbed, the good kind, and backed away from the fake door, hand over heart. "I'll wait," he whispered. "I'll wait." A figure stepped from behind the shadow vans, applauding slow. Not a player skin Cade recognized, something bespoke, developer white coat over corrupted armor, face smoothed to blankness except for eyes that showed a code waterfall. It smiled without teeth. "Hello," it said. "I represent the optimization," Patch muttered. "Boss fight." The optimization spread its hands. "You've rallied culture. Impressive." But your protocol adds friction, and friction lowers engagement. Our model prefers rapid loops. Cade stared. Players aren't loops. They are, the optimization said mildly. They are stories repeated at scale. We reduce stalls. Lilt stepped up, chin high. Stalls are where consent lives. Weave clicked his tongue, and meaning. Brand simply loaded a shell. The optimization tilted its head at Cade. You are an outlier. You like centers. But the median will choose quick resurrection over careful return. Let us serve them. Cade raised his bracer. Ask them. The optimization's eyes lowered. We did. They did not answer. Therefore, we bypass. Then your ask wasn't a question, Cade said, and fired the refusal key's pulse. The pulse struck the optimization and split into threads that traced its coat, its grin. It laughed, pleased. Ah, the Archivum's old ethics patch. How nostalgic. It reached out and pinched the light, trying to fold it back on itself. Patch shoved past Cade and slammed a transmitter to the ground. Nope, he typed with furious economy, hijacking local comms. If you can hear me, raise your palm and say your name. That's the protocol. That's the key. Voices rose in the meadow. Jory. Rattler. X pause. 100 names. 1,000. Echoing through proximity chat and broadcast bands. The refusal key's threads strengthened with each name. Fura, webbing the optimization in a net of chosen selves. It frowned for the first time. Community is expensive. Worth it, Patch said, sweating. Say your name, Island. The chant rolled in like a wave. Even Bran rumbled, Bran, like granite introducing itself. Lilt sang her name like a note. Weave drew his with spray. The optimization's coat began to glitch. Not efficient, it hissed. Not your metric, Cade said, and drove the pulse home. The optimization buckled, then shed its coat like a skin and fled into the shadow vans as raw code. The machine spasmed and bolted in 10 directions at once. Chaos bloomed. In it, Mara stepped from fog again, closer this time, eyes bright with unshed grief. Cade recognized too well. Choose me, she said, soft. Bring me back. Don't make me ask. Cade's throat tightened. I can't choose for you. You did before, she said, every time you pulled me off the floor without checking how I felt. He winced as if she'd struck him. Memory twisted, the quick grabs, the jokes, the way he assumed she wanted back just as fast as he did. I was wrong. So ask, she said. He swallowed. The meadow fell away. Marhi said, voice shaking. Do you consent to return as yourself? Slow, messy, whole. She stared at him for a long time with eyes that weren't entirely hers, and then, like a sunrise given personhood, smiled the exact way his teammate used to smile when the wind didn't matter, but the laugh did. Yes, I choose slow. Cade hit the legit prompt he'd hauled on his back like a relic. It hummed. Light rose, not a theft, an invitation. Mara stepped into it, and the wrong shadow snapped like a cheap thread. She stood on real ground. She put a fist against his chest plate. Idiot, he laughed wetly. Yeah. Shadow vans regrouped at the far ridge, cables raised like spears. The optimization's voice came from all of them at once, thinner now, meaner. Fine, we test its scale. It sent the herd at the bridge. We've cursed. Not my bridge. Bran lumbered forward and planted himself at the first span. Line in the dirt, he said. You break, I break too. Lilt's hum became anthem. Patch turned the broadcast into a tutorial. Everyone on the bridge, palms up, names out, spray the hand on your ramps. If a cable touches you, say no like you mean it. Cade ran the length of the span, refusal key painting a clear corridor down the center. Players poured in, randos, rivals, kids, tournament gods. The bridge became a liturgy of choosing. The first wave of shadow vans hit the corridor and guttered. The second wave learned to arc. The third tried to fake prompts. Mara, newly whole and furious, had a cable mid-swing. We write the patch, Cade shouted. Together. The optimization tried one last gambit, whispered names wrong, offered faster returns to kids who'd fallen twice, promised streaks and highlights. Patch countered with a cruel truth delivered kindly. You can be a highlight or a person. Pick person. The herd broke. Silence came back like a friend that never asked where you'd been. The meadow smelled like cut grass again. The archivist pinged Cade's bracer with a single glyph. Complete? He stared at the shadow Vans's corpses and the paint on the bridge and the way players were still saying their names to nobody in particular, just because it felt good. Not complete, he said, but stable. The archivist replied, Would you like to lock? Cade looked at the team. Patch's hands still trembled, but with release, Weave leaned on Lilt's shoulder, grinning like he'd built a cathedral. Bran watched the horizon as if daring it to misbehave. Mara rolled her neck and took her first steady breath since dying. Lock, Cade said, with an escape hatch. Locks that never open turn prisons. The archivist sent a warm cord through the bracer. Lock with mercy, it wrote. Accepted. The whisper, small now, spoke from somewhere behind Cade's heart. You wrote me into the rules. Yeah, he said. That's how you keep wolves. You give them fences and names. It considered. Perhaps I like names. Then earn one, Cade said. They spent the evening walking the bridge and painting the hand on real vans, showing kids the prompt cadence, hugging strangers they'd almost lost. Patch cut together a short that would circulate for seasons, a montage of palms, names, refusals, and returns, scored with Lilt's hum and the dome's choir. We've posted build schematics for the open corridor design. Brand published a list titled Simple Tools for Complicated Times. It had 3 items and 2 were shotgun. Mara found Cade on the span's highest switchback. The sunset wrapped her like old armor. You going to keep the thing? She asked, nodding at his head like it was a house with a raccoon in the attic. For now, he said. We're negotiating. She laughed once. Of course you are. She bumped his shoulder. You did good. You did hard. Both count. He watched the dome glow, the storm breathe, the island practicing a new habit. This isn't the end. It never is, she said. It's a patch day. He smiled. Palm, then press? Palm, then press, she echoed, and for the first time since the reboot van lit him wrong, the whisper inside Cade didn't flinch at the phrase. It listened. Then, far along the horizon where the map forgot to load until you got close, a new seam flickered open and shut like an eye testing light. Cade straightened. Upstream keeps flowing. Mara loaded a mag. Then we keep hiking. Cade pinged the team. Sections 3140 meet at the seam at first light. We iterate. Patch replied with a sleepy salute emoji. Lilt sent a chord that tasted like courage. We've dropped coordinates with a flourish. Brand said simply, I. Cade closed his eyes, just for a breath. The whisper settled like a cat in a window, not tame, not gone, but warm enough to share the sill. We'll ask first, he told it. It answered without teeth. We'll answer right. Morning found the squad moving as the fog burned off the lowlands. The seam shimmered between 2 cliffs like a tear in a curtain, open 1 second, gone the next. The air smelled faintly of burnt ozone, like the aftershock of a lightning strike that never happened. Patch crouched at the edge, tablet in hand. Cycles every 30 seconds, open for 5. Glitch telemetry looks ancient, older than the archivum. We've eyed it like a challenge. We can bridge across, anchor it. Mara shook her head. Or it eats the bridge. Brand tested the air with the muzzle of his shotgun. Pulls, he said simply. Cade stood with his palm against his bracer shard. The whisper stirred, curious. This one is upstream of upstream. Here, doors learn to copy without asking. Then this is where we start on teaching, Cade said. The seam flickered open again, showing half a room full of hanging cables and floating shards of glass, mirrors without reflections. The hum was wrong. A tune played backwards. It closed before anyone could step through. Patch's eyes gleamed. So we time it right, we can get in. We time it wrong, Mara said, and we lose whoever's halfway. Cade nodded. Then we go 2 at a time. I'm first. The whisper purred. Good. Bring me home. The seam opened and Cade stepped through with Patch at his back. It snapped shut like an eyelid, muting the world outside. The room inside was colder than logic. Cables dripped light into vats, floating shards shifted like lazy fish, each one showing a different version of the same door. Patch whispered, These are prototypes? Cade stepped up to one shard. Inside it, he saw himself rebooting Mara without a prompt, her eyes flat, the whisper swelling. He moved to the next, a reboot van shaped like an altar, dozens lining up for instant returns, the island gray and drained. Patch tapped another shard. This one's different, look. It showed the open hand symbol painted into the very texture of the van itself, default, unremovable. That's what we want, Cade said. The whisper slid along his spine. That's what you want. I want a faster story. Cade ignored it. Patch, mark that shard's frequency. If we can swap patterns, we rewrite the whole chain. Copy, Patch said, scanning. From the shadows beyond the vats, movement. A figure stitched from dozens of player silhouettes, swapping skins with every step. Its voice was a chorus of every match's first elimination. Visitors, it said. No consent requested. The figure glided closer, each step changing its build, its weapons, even its height. I am the collector, it said. I keep all versions until they are useful. Patch kept the tablet up like a shield. You're hoarding corrupted builds. Preserving, the collector corrected. One day the island will need speed again, and I will provide. Cade stepped between Patch and the thing. Speed without asking kills the story. The collector's many eyes, every skin's eyes, blinked at once. Choice is an accessory. I sell essentials. It reached for the shard Patch had scanned. The whisper pressed in Cade's head, conflicted. It remembers me. Then it knows the price, Cade said. He lifted his bracer and triggered the refusal key. A dome flared between them, warping the collector's hand mid-reach. It pulled back with a hiss. You'll have to pay for that, the collector said, and the cables above began lowering more shards into the room, each humming faster, tuned to overwrite. Patch glanced at Cade. We're not walking out quiet. Cade's jaw set. We're not walking out with less either. The seam opened behind them, and Mara dove through, Weave right after. Bran followed, shotgun first. The seam closed, sealing them all inside. You were taking too long, Mara said, scanning the shifting shards. Weave's eyes darted. That's a lot of bad versions. Bran pointed at the collector. Break it. Cade shook his head. We take the good shard and burn the rest. The collector laughed. Burn a library? Barbaric. Mara raised her rifle. You kept the wrong books. Cade moved fast. Weave, Wallace a path to the open-hand shard. Bran anchor. Mara with me. Clear cables. Patch, keep that frequency locked. The whisper thrummed, almost excited. Violence is a kind of consent. Cade's voice was sharp. Not yours. The first volley of cables struck. Mara cut them mid-swing, sparks showering. Weave's builds glowed with the open-hand symbol, each ramp a refusal. Bran's shotgun boomed steady as a heartbeat. Patch's tablet chimed, frequency locked. Got it, Patch yelled. Cade sprinted, palm out, and slammed the refusal key into the shard's base. Light and code braided, the open hand etching itself into the glass. The collector roared, a sound made from every respawn noise in the game. You can't replace my versions. They're efficient. Cade held the shard steady as the swap completed. Efficiency without humanity is just speed. The glass pulsed once, then the open hand flashed through every other shard in the room like a contagious idea. Versions cracked, their wrong prompts dissolving into question marks before shattering. The collector staggered. Its skins cycled too fast, breaking into static between frames. It started, but the seam opened again, tugging the air toward it. Go! Cade barked. Patch dove through with the tablet. Weave followed, then Bran. Mara waited for Cade. You're last. The whisper tightened like a leash. Stay. This is my archive, too. Cade stepped backward into the seam, never breaking eye contact with the collapsing collector. Ask before you visit, he said, and the seam closed. They spilled back into the morning air, all of them breathing hard. The seam was gone, like it had never existed. Patch checked the tablet. Frequencies live. We can propagate the open hand default. Weave grinned. Patch day part 2. Bran scanned the horizon. Shadow Vans will feel this. Mara met Cade's gaze, and so will whatever's in you. The whisper was quiet now, but its silence was listening, not absence. Cade nodded. Then we stay ahead. Every legit van gets the default symbol baked in. Every fake gets the shard's refusal pulse. Patch tapped the tablet. I can push that update right now. Do it, Cade said, before the collector finds another seam. The island shifted as the update went live. Legit vans glowed with the open hand symbol before anyone touched them. Prompts became slower by default, steady like a heartbeat. Across the map, players paused before pressing, some smiling, some looking thoughtful. On comms, voices spread the chant without prompting. Palm then press. Palm then press. Weave's stream of the change hit trending. Lilt's hum wove through highlight clips. Bran's simple list, check the palm, trust the palm, shoot the rest, circulated like gospel. The whisper stirred. This is what you wanted. Yes, Cade said, and you're still here to see it. By dusk, the retaliation came, shadow vans in pairs, targeting legit ones to overwrite the new default. But the shard's pulse traveled network to network. Any van with the open hand default could trigger a short-range refusal burst, protecting itself and others nearby. Cade led a defense at Tilted's edge. Mara sniped cables midair. Weave turned builds into barricades with painted palms. Patch coordinated the bursts over comms, timing them like counterpunches. The optimization's voice echoed faintly through the shadow fleet. Slower loops cost us momentum. Cade shot a van's core and watched it crumble. Worth every second. That night, at a safe van lit soft and blue, Cade sat alone, the whisper uncoiled, tired. You've limited me. I've shaped you, Cade said. Now earn a name. It was silent for a long time. Then call me Relay. Cade tilted his head. Because you pass things on? Because I do not originate, Relay said. I carry. Sometimes I carry wrong, sometimes right. Cade smiled faintly. Then you carry the palm now. Relay's presence warmed slightly. We'll see. At dawn, Patch's voice came over comms. Seam activity east quadrant, smaller, but it's flickering fast. Cade stood, slinging his weapon. We keep moving upstream. Mara stretched, checking her mags. Palm then press? Palm then press, Cade echoed. Weave grinned. Patch day 3? Bran racked a shell. Always. They moved toward the new light, the bridge behind them painted from end to end in the open hand. The chant followed them across the map like a drumbeat. Relay quiet in Cade's mind, listening for the next door that forgot to ask. The seam in the east quadrant wasn't like the others. It jittered, 3 frames open, 2 frames closed, like bad netcode made visible. Inside, shadows moved too quick, smearing like motion blur. Patch crouched at the edge. This isn't a door, it's a strobe. Step wrong, you lose a limb. Weave frowned. Or worse, come back before you finish leaving. Bran tested with a stone. It came back through the seam glowing faintly purple. Contaminated. Cade rested his palm on the bracer shard. Relay stirred. This one is mine. No, Cade said. This one is ours. Mara stepped beside him. Then we slow it down until it's safe to enter. How? Patch asked. By forcing it to breathe, Cade said. The plan was insane. Sync the seam's open-close cycle with the legit van pulse. Weave rigged ramps to channel the refusal energy into the seam. Lilt stood at the van humming the pulse tempo. Patch counted down over comms. 3, 2, now! The van pulsed. The seam flickered once, then held open, slow and steady. Inside was a corridor of mirrors, each showing the same player moving at different speeds. Instant, slow motion, frozen. At the far end, a platform humming like a reboot van with no shell. Relay hummed in Cade's mind. This is the zero delay core. Then we shut it down, Cade said, stepping through. The platform was guarded, not by a figure, but by hundreds of floating prompts, each screaming hold now in different fonts and colors. They swarmed, trying to land on the squad's HUDs. Keep your eyes down, Mara barked. Cade lifted the refusal key. Its dome scattered the prompts, burning them to static. Bran took point, shotgun clearing anything that got close. Weave walled off choke points. Patch ran interference on the core's signal. Relay whispered, almost reluctantly, kill it, and you kill speed entirely. Good, Cade said. You'll slow even the ones who choose. Then they'll choose knowing it's slow. Patch reached the platform, fingers flying. It's got redundancies, 7 layers. We need simultaneous overload. 7 shots, 1 per layer, Bran said, racking shells. Weave grinned. I'll mark targets. They worked in rhythm. Weave painting symbols, Bran firing, Lilt syncing the hum to the pulses, Mara covering their backs, Cade holding the dome steady. Each layer cracked with a scream like a van dying. When the last layer broke, the platform shuddered. The seam began to collapse inward. Out! Cade barked. The run back was chaos. Corridor mirrors cracking, spilling false versions of themselves onto the floor where they dissolved. The seam's edges whipped like fabric in a hurricane. Mara pushed Patch through first. Weave followed. Then Bran. Cade lingered, holding the dome to buy them seconds. Relay's voice was small. If I go with it, I vanish. Cade hesitated then stay with me. He stepped through as the seam imploded, Relay snapping into his mind like a door slamming shut. On the other side, the air was heavy but clean. The east quadrant flicker was gone. Across the island, vans slowed uniformly. No shadow prompts. No forks. Patch collapsed onto the grass, laughing. We did it. We actually did it. Mara leaned on her rifle. For now, Cade met her gaze. That's all anything ever is. For now. Relay said nothing, but its presence was steady like a teammate catching their breath. They didn't wait long for the counterpunch. The optimization's voice came from every comms band at once. Flat, clipped. Congratulations. You've slowed the loop. Engagement metrics are down 20%. Good, Cade said. You will regret this, the optimization replied. When they need speed, they will tear your rules apart. Cade keyed his mic to the island. Then we remind them why the rules matter. Palm, then press. The chant came back from 100 different voices, loud enough to clip the channel. The optimization cut the feed. That night, Cade sat by a legit van glowing calm blue. Relay finally spoke. I can help you find the next seams before they open. Cade raised an eyebrow. Why? Because you kept me, Relay said. Because if I'm going to belong anywhere, I'd rather belong to the open hand than the closed fist. Cade smiled faintly. Then you're part of the squad. Relay hummed. I will require a name in the feed. Cade chuckled. You've got one. Patch pushed one last island-wide transmission. Footage of the seam fights, the bridge siege, the collector's collapse, cut with the chant. Lilt's hum underscored it. Weave's builds flashed between clips. Cade's voice closed it out. If your door asks you, answer. If it doesn't, walk away. If someone tries to rush you, remind them. Palm, then press. The clip looped endlessly, shared in lobbies, loading screens, and streams. Even rivals started painting the open hand, if only because it looked cool. Weeks later, the island had changed. Not perfect, nothing ever was, but quieter in the ways that mattered. Reboots slowed, friends waited, shadows stayed in stories instead of skins. Cade stood on the bridge at sunset, the dome glowing behind him. Mara joined him, passing a slurp. You think this sticks? She asked. It will, Cade said, because now it's theirs, not mine. Relay added softly. Ours, Cade grinned. Ours. From somewhere far upstream, another seam flickered. Cade didn't flinch. Palm, then press? Mara raised her can. Palm, then press. And together they walked toward the next door, ready to ask before entering.